And how would they do that?
I think it's a time again to listen to what they have to say,
Mm-hmm.
to understand where they're coming from, and I think if a person is realistic, if they're not seeing it, they take the time to listen to make it understandable. That also gives, and I've come across this too before, Michael, is that as a leader at the Center of Hope, and being in that, it was a very unique type of style of leadership, facing some negativity. It's a lot of times we say, well, gee, it's your fault, that it's not mine. I'm doing, what I need to do, and I think I'm doing a great job. But we're not looking at the chinks in our armor, and recognizing some of our downfalls. And that's, again, taking that time. I've seen that happen with other situations where the leader is kind of put on the hot seat. And in this particular situation, this person took time to listen, and that whole leadership shift, in the sense of those that person had underneath them, took a big turn, because they're saying, hey, this person is really listening to me. They're taking the time to hear what I have to say. They're taking the time that the ideas that I have are valid. My ideas are ideas. That's my main coming through.
Exactly.
And just taking that time, and I saw a big shift in the leadership that was underneath this person. So that is an important lesson, is recognizing your own I guess faults or things like that. So you have to be willing to take that criticism, and I think some people are not ready to take that criticism as a leader.
And John Maxwell talks a lot about creating a vision as a leader. How do you create a brilliant vision where others have ownership, that you are leading, that gets that vision to be implemented and to do absolutely transformational and brilliant things within the organization or whomever they're leading?
It's actually a good question, Michael, because I'm reading a book by, trying to think of her first name, but it's Catherine Batchelor. She's CEO of Popeyes.
Okay.
And the book's called Dare to Serve. And one of the things that I'm reading in that is that she's empowering her employees, I should say franchise owners, to make their own decisions, to come up with new ideas. So it's not only having vision for yourself, but allowing those people, in this particular case, those franchise owners, to create their own vision. Sometimes it's a matter of taking what my boss is taking a calculated risk, and I think that's a big part of vision. If you're always looking to do it between the lines, you really got to think sometimes outside the box and take calculated risks in that leadership, creating that vision.
Absolutely. Brilliant. We are talking to Stephen Bryant on his premiere episode of High Performance Leadership. Stephen Bryant is a brand new host on the Coach on Fire. He's a coach too, but a brand new host on the Coach on Fire radio network. And we are just thrilled and honored to have him join our team of 20 plus coaches, authors, speakers, mentors from around the world, delivering transformational content on a weekly basis. You can find out more about Stephen's shows and all of our hosts on the Coach on Fire radio network at facebook.com/Coach on Fire radio. And Stephen, let me take this opportunity before we get into what the audience can expect in the coming weeks from your radio show. How can people, if they want to work with you, if they're emerging leaders or if they're leaders that are struggling with something based on your vast leadership experience, how can people get a hold of you should they want to work with you privately or elsewhere?
Sure. So I'm trying to cover all the bases on social media. So I'm on Facebook as Stephen Bryant. You can see me standing in front of a 2003 red Thunderbird. So that's one of the ways you get a hold of me. I'm also on Instagram, on Twitter, also on LinkedIn. And then my email address is stephenbryantphotography@gmail.com. I'm also working on, actually with my son-in-law, who's a web site designer, to get my website up and get that on the go as well. So I've got a lot of good people in good places to help me.
There you go. There you go, yeah, and something you didn't talk about a whole heck of a lot, which is your photography business. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm a freelance photographer as well. I've been invited to do some weddings, birthday parties, do some shots as well. How that started was back in 2008, my mom had just sold our home and was moving into a smaller unit. She had some extra money, said, Steve, what would you like to do? And I said, hey, listen, Mom, I said, there's a trip to Israel coming up this spring. And I said, I would really love to go. And she said, tell you what, she says, I'll take care of it for you. She said, I haven't been able to do a whole lot in my life for my son. So just let me know how much it is. And then before I had a chance to answer, she said, you probably want to take pictures, won't you? And I said, well, sure, Mom. And she said, well, I said, go out, buy yourself a good camera. So traveled to Israel and fell in love with the place. We also had an opportunity to go to Jordan and the city of Petra, which was phenomenal. And just started taking some photos, looking at my brother, who is a great photographer as well, and just picking up on different things that he was doing, and just fell in love with it. And actually, that's kind of my self-care mode, is get that camera in my hand and I can pretty much forget about almost everything.
Nice.
So, it's a great hobby. Yeah, I've made some good friends and some extra cash doing that. So yeah, I love it. You can visit that page on Facebook. It's called Stephen Bryant Photography, and my page there has the picture of the Portland Head Lighthouse in Cape Elizabeth, Maine.
Yes, I've seen that. A brilliant picture, by the way. Absolutely stunning and incredible. So great work, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks.
So absolutely great work. Now, High Performance Leadership, it's going to premiere, at least your solo show, without me hanging in, will be in 2 weeks. And it'll be at 7 Pacific, 8 Mountain Time, which is your time zone. And that would be 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and just use a converter if you're anywhere else in the world.
That's right.
I can't do it all. There's just so many time zones that we have an audience for here on the Coach on Fire Radio Network. So use a time zone converter, but 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. on Friday evenings, Mountain Time. So, Stephen, High Performance Leadership, what types of things are we going to be doing on the show that will not only entertain, but inform and transform your listening audience?
So one of the things I want to do is to interview some high-profile people as much as possible. Some friends that I've come to know through Facebook are emerging leaders from different walks of life, so I want to get them. I'm also looking at in contact with some people from John Maxwell. I know they have a huge and very busy schedule, so we're hoping to
absolutely
get somebody in from that as well. Also want to do some leadership tips, some things that I've learned that
his sound just went off.
I'm going to add to just a bit. That's so some of those things, again, interviewing some people who are successful to talk about what has made them successful, some of the tips that they might have as well, that during these times, just to go through some things that would really help them in as they're emerging as leaders or leaders that have been established for a while. There might be some new things to learn. So that's
absolutely.
what I'm hoping to do.
I can't wait to listen to that first episode in just 2 weeks' time, Stephen, at 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Mountain, High Performance Leadership on the Coach on Fire Radio Network. For more information on Stephen's shows, check out all of his social media channels, which we'll have in the replay blurb here, or Coach on Fire or Facebook.com/Coach on Fire Radio. And we are talking to the brilliant Stephen Bryant. All right, Stephen, this is the fun part of the show where I asked you a few personal questions so the audience can get to know you a little better.
Sure thing.
What would you say your favorite meal is?
That's an easy one. Surf and turf.
Surf and turf.
Nice
Man after
surf
my
and
own
turf.
heart.
And make sure it's Maine lobster or lobster.
Uh-huh. There you go. You're from Maine. I forgot about that. Maine lobster. Awesome.
Absolutely. So that is my favorite meal.
Okay. That makes sense to me. It would be one of mine as well. So um, you mentioned the book that you're reading right now. Would that be a book that you recommended to your audience? And tell us a little bit more about that book.
Absolutely. I think, Michael, that actually I was in a draw on that book through my mentors, John and Close. They were running a Maxwell leadership time, and in Fort McMurray, it was a morning session, and I was in a draw for a book, and I won it. I started reading it, and even the title itself is called Dare to Serve. One of the things that I found in pastoral leadership is people will follow a person, one that has integrity, one who listens, and one who has that servant's heart, is not afraid of getting dirty, getting their elbows in the mire and muck, and that speaks a lot to those who are following. Is that person is not afraid to do the work and to help them out.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a book that you can find on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, virtually wherever books are sold. So get that book, Dare to Serve. I like that title, by the way. That is just was it Dare to Serve or the title, Stephen?
It's called Dare to Serve. Yeah, the title is Dare to Serve.
Dare to Serve. I love that title. Love that title. And the CEO of Popeyes, I assume that's Popeyes Chicken. Is that right? Popeyes, the fast food franchise. Very cool.
Yes. So she took that over as a struggling franchise. One of the things that she had mentioned is growing up, I shouldn't say growing up, being involved with the retail business and management before I is the sense of being that leader who is is willing to serve. That the customer. This is the point I really wanted to make was what I was taught very early on when I was a bag boy. Now that really dates me when I put groceries in paper bags and took them out for the customer. But going along with that was my supervisor at the time said, Steve, no matter how wrong the person is, the customer is always right. And one of the things that she talks about in this whole thing with franchise owners and with the franchise themselves is who's the most important? Well, it's the franchise owner, because if you can make them feel wanted as a part of the team, they're going to do the job to put the customer first. So as the franchisee is that they make sure that the owner is happy, that the one who runs the place is getting all the assistance they can, is that they're feeling important about the whole thing. So it was very transforming for Popeyes.
Nice, yeah. And she is the face of their advertising, at least down here in our country, in the USA. She, they run, a very large advertising campaign, and she's actually on their spots. I've also seen her on Undercover Boss, which was a really interesting. I
haven't seen that.
Canada, we don't. Yeah, I can't remember how long ago it was. It was a few years ago. She was on Undercover Boss as well. So brilliant lady, no question about it, and sounds like an absolutely incredible book. So Stephen Bryant recommends it. I have not read it, so I can't recommend it. But from what I know of her, it sounds like it is something that you will want to read, especially if you're looking to be a better leader. So absolutely brilliant. All right, Stephen, what would you say one thing is that most people don't know about you that you're comfortable revealing to the world here on the radio?
Wow. A lot of things. Trying to think. I think one of the things I go back to is that in this day of marriages breaking apart and relationships not lasting, that my wife and I first met in 1977, so we've known each other for over 40 years.
Wow, that's insane.
So we will celebrate our 39th anniversary the day after I turned 60.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well,
So it's
congratulations